Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Value of IIBA Business Analysis Competency Model. I'm your host, Marlena Lombardi, and on behalf of IIBA, thanks for joining us today. At IIBA, we are all about uniting a community of professionals to create better business outcomes and to provide the tools to help you climb the ladder of success. And we're all here today to hear on how to take charge of your professional career by continuously developing the skills, knowledge, abilities, and personal characteristics you need to be successful at work. And with that, I would like to introduce our presenters. Jazz Full, IIBA Director of Product and IP Development, and Anthony Clark, IIBA Product Manager of IP and Product Development. And as a side note, there will be time for questions at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions, please enter them into the box, to the question box below. I will now turn it over to you, Anthony.
Well, thank you, Marlena, and I'd like to welcome everyone to this very exciting and informative session about our latest release of the Business Analysis Competency Model. We hope at the end of this session you'll be able to come away energized, empowered by the information you would have heard in order to help develop and advance your career. And I'm just going to pull up the slide. So essentially what we have for you is a question. So we want to know how many of you have heard about IIBA's Business Analyst Competency Model prior to today's session. We're going to give you about 30 seconds to answer, and we invite everyone to participate and share your feedback because we're really interested in obtaining that information from you.
Perfect. We've got about 78% who have voted so far, so we'll give you another 10 seconds to vote, and then we'll close the poll. The poll is now closed. So we have 61% who have said yes, and 39% who have said no.
Well, wow. So those are great results. So a great many of you have actually heard about the competency model prior to today's session. And so we hope that you'll come away with some valuable information in terms of what we've done, in terms of updating the model from when you've actually last used the current the model that was in use before. And for those of you who are just learning about it today, we hope that you will come away with some valuable information and that you will take the model and utilize it to advance your career. So I'm going to present today 5 particular things that we want to share about the competency model update. So essentially we want to talk about who was involved in the work, why we actually made the updates, how we actually built the model, and what we delivered, and then ending off with what's next in the evolution of the competency model. So we want to first acknowledge that no work like this could be done by one individual alone. We want to thank all the many volunteers and experts who have helped us throughout this journey to get here, and for the countless hours and expertise and time that they've lent to help us develop this very valuable product to our BA community. Essentially, we want to acknowledge especially the core team who led the journey, and this core team was made up of BA professionals with extensive experience, along with our consultants who were very experienced in writing competency models, and that consultant's name was Skill Director. Collectively, altogether, all their talents and skills and time were combined to deliver this very powerful information product that we have released to you today, and essentially it embodies what the organization's vision is about uniting a community of professionals to create better business outcomes and on a global scale. So the next thing I want to talk about is why. Why did we actually approach doing these updates? So as many of you are aware, in the last couple of years, IIBA has been very hard at work providing greater value to BA professionals and the wider BA community. And this has been done namely through the release of information products, namely the BABAC Standards version 3 that was released in 2015, and the enhanced multi-level certification program that was released in 2016. And so having completed this work, it was mandatory on us as an organization to identify and address the need to update all our interrelated information products to, number one, ensure there's alignment to the work we've already done, and that future updates consider the direction we've already taken for the BABAC standards and our new certification framework. So along with these thoughts in mind, we identified the need to make the updates to our business analyst competency model, and following a set of themes that were like our guidelines, our driving force behind delivering continuous value to our BA professionals, to continuously assess, develop, and grow their careers. And essentially we had come up with these 6 value-driven themes that were our justification for why we made these updates. And so what you're seeing on screen is a side-by-side comparison in terms of what we assess from our current model versus what we actually deliver today in our new model. And so one of those themes that you'll see is relevant content. So essentially in our previous model, we had multiple views of assessment. So it was a multi-dimensional view of assessing yourself against the BA task, and then you would assess yourself against the techniques, and then you would self-assess yourself against the underlying competencies. And all these assessments would be aligned to BABAC version 2. So given all the layers that were there, we felt that we could do best by simplifying it. And the way we did that was to integrate these multiple levels into one. So we have one integrated view which focuses on just the BA task. And what we've done with the underlying techniques and the underlying competencies and techniques, we've actually integrated them, rolled them up into this one-dimensional view so that it was very powerful and very useful in terms of measuring performance, utilizing a very simplified way to measure how well a BA is performing the BA task. Another item was the focus. So in our previous model, we actually packaged it. We put a lot of information in there and packaged it for different stakeholder uses. So examples of that were how the BA professional would utilize the model. We also had something that talked to how BA leaders in an organization would utilize it, as well as HR professionals. And then finally, there was also the perspective of how the organization would utilize the model. So we felt that less was more, and that we wanted to focus this first release of the model on the BA practitioner. And it's all about a singular focus on developing that well-rounded BA with the skill sets that were necessary in order to be successful at work. Another thing was we focused on in terms of wanting making these updates was we want to focus on the ease of use. So the model we had before, essentially, it was found to be very cumbersome. Cumbersome in the way of the assessment points. We had over 300 assessment points with 3 different skills development scales. And so one scale was based on the tasks, the BA tasks themselves, and that ended up to be 53 performance competencies, which consisted of not just the BA task, but elements within the BA tasks that were taken out to create that one level of assessment, a set of assessment points. Then we also had you rating yourself and assessing yourself against every single technique, and then also the same for every single underlying competency. In total, all of that information was taken out and put into a tool that we call the BA self-assessment tool, and that consisted of 319 questions that you would have to sit down and answer in order to come out with where you are as far as your performance and what areas you need to improve on. So we found that that was quite complex and challenging. It's very time consuming, and it was almost resembling writing your certification exam, double the time, double the amount of questions. So we felt it was going to be much more powerful to streamline this, and we streamlined it by reducing the 300 over 300 assessment points to 30. And those 30 assessment points are really your BA task performances. So the BA tasks themselves from the BABAC version 3, we've taken that and we've comprised that into 30 assessment points that would be used to measure how well you're doing a task. And then we wanted to make sure it was actionable. So we found that it's not just about throwing information at you. In our other model we had, it was very comprehensive. It had a lot of great information, but often challenging because it was an information load, and then the challenge was, how do you use it now? How can it be practical in building my career? So we wanted to come away with making updates to this model so that people can come away with a means of an actionable step, or taking out actionable steps to actually develop their career development plan. So that really speaks to the simplifying it so that at the end of the day, you're getting the best use out of it. And then we wanted to be innovative. We realized that we were already pioneering this. We were one of the first to have a business analyst competency model that was geared towards BA practitioners. And so we wanted to continue to leverage that by improving the value and combining this with the expertise of our external consultant skill director, who were specializing and had extensive experience in writing competency models. So in the model that we had before, BA practitioners were the ones that wrote it, and there was nothing wrong with that. However, we realized that BA practitioners, their expertise really lied in the business analysis practice and discipline. And so in order to make this a best in class, we want to combine the best of both worlds. So combining the extensive experience of our BA professionals with that of a consultant like skill director who had very much the same amount of experience in terms of writing competency models, so that it's going to be something that will stand up in the industry. And then we want to focus on ease of access. So in the competency model that we had before, we had it in PDF format. If you were a corporate member, these documents would have come in PDF, Word, Microsoft Word, or Excel. And so recognizing where we are in our world today, that the way that people are accessing information and using it is through internet and internet devices, so through your mobile phones, or your or your tablet, that we wanted to ensure that we were going to deliver this in a format that was easy to use, it was easy to access anytime, anywhere at your fingertips, and in the most relevant way that information is being accessed today. So then it comes down to how we actually built this, how we approach doing that. So with the driving value themes, we approached the updates to the model by leveraging a set of guidelines that kept us focused on delivering added value information products to our BA practitioners. And one of those guiding themes here is that, and we mentioned it in the other slide, was positioning the model as the sought-after resource for continuous development of competencies. So leveraging that innovation, being innovative and pioneering, we want to deliver something that BA professionals would always gravitate to as the resource for developing and advancing their career. We also want to reflect best practices from the industry. So I mentioned Skill Director and their expertise in writing competency models. Essentially with Skill Director, they helped us to make sure that we structured our competency model so that it wasn't something that was reinvented or looked different from competency models in general. So different industries have competency models, and at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we were delivering something that was not out of the ordinary, but that we were going to just combine the best of two worlds, the BA profession with and the skill sets in line with competency models that are out there, so that it's a very powerful tool at the end of the day, and you would find a lot of value in utilizing it. The other thing was alignment. We had to align it to BABAC version 3, as well as our new 4-level certification framework. And really the message behind doing that and building it that way is that it's a message that we've been saying all along. since we released our 4-level certification framework. That certification is no longer about accumulation of project hours and studying the standards of practice, which is the BABA, and then passing an exam. But it's an actual continuous recognition of your competencies, where these competencies are represented from the BA standards of practice. So when you think about it, what an organization wants, although you have many years, many extensive hours in various initiatives, it could be 30 or 50,000 hours. Organizations are not really so concerned about that, but they're really at the end of the day want to know, do you bring the skill sets to bring value to me as an organization in order to help us to enable change? So not to discount the years and the many hours of project work or other initiatives that are encompassing and requiring business analysis, but essentially it's all about your skill sets and what you bring to the table as far as what you can do, your skills, your capabilities, your knowledge that's going to help move an organization forward in light of all the changes the organization is going through. And then we also wanted to emphasize practical use of the model so that you're going to pick it up and you're going to be able to really do that assessment of where you are and be able to identify what you need to do in order to push your career forward. What I want to also emphasize here on this slide is the circle. I want everyone to pay very close attention to the circle that you're seeing on screen. Essentially, this circle is our competency model. This is the business analysis competency model, and essentially you will come away with 4 key messages that this model is conveying. Essentially, it's what you do. So as a BA practitioner, the emphasis is on the performing of the BA tasks. And these tasks themselves come from the 6 knowledge areas that you're seeing in the outer circle that you're seeing before you. And they're aligned to version 3.0. And they also consist of those 30 points of assessments that you're rating yourself against. And then essentially, it comes down to when you know what you're doing, how do you do it? So the underlying competencies themselves. And so currently in version 3 of BABAC, we have 29. And instead of having you rate yourself against each of the 29 individually, we've actually rolled them out. We've incorporated that into the model. And really, it's what we're saying here in that wheel is that you take any of those underlying competencies and you use them to apply them to performing the task. And then it comes down to the way you do it. What techniques? So we have about 50 techniques. And so what we're saying here is that any of these techniques can be applied in some way or fashion to performing the task. And then finally, it comes down to how well you do it. That's the final thing that you would come away as far as a key message. So that there's this measurement. So you're performing the task, you're utilizing the underlying competencies and the techniques, the way that you perform it to do the task better, but then you have to have a way to measure yourself, and currently in terms of how well you're performing now and what you need to do in terms of improving your performance. And so we have this new scale that we came out with, which resembles the Dreyfus model scale that we had in our version 3.0, but we've actually relabeled the levels so that they are a direct tie-in to our certification. So essentially, when you look at general awareness at the bottom and practical knowledge, these levels represent a BA practitioner towards the beginning stages of their career. They have some experience in formal or formal types of training and mentoring on the job or wherever that experience came from. And essentially, we're mapping our levels 1 to 2 to the ECBA, that's your entry certificate in business analysis. And then we have our level 3, which is tied to your CCBA. So in terms of your midpoint of your career, you have about 2 years or more of business analysis experience. And then we've got level 4, which is your CBAP. So you're now a bit more senior and more seasoned, and so that's a level there that you're moving towards that advanced level, where we've got level 5, your CBATL, which is your Certified Business Analyst Thought Leader. So this is where now you're at a point, you're at a point in your career where now it goes beyond just the ins and outs of doing business analysis tasks in projects or whatever initiatives. You're now looked upon as an industry leader. You're someone that champions changes organizational wide. You may be a keynote speaker at Project World or BA World or other types of conferences, or you may be a key speaker at summits. So these are indicators basically to help you measure how well you perform the task and what you need to do in order to improve performance of the task. And essentially what you're doing here is you're identifying where you are in your career in real time so that you can identify what's needed to take you to the next level. The other thing I wanted to mention about this model was that we want you to view the model, the wheel, as a cycle. So like a wheel that depicts time and seasons, essentially this wheel represents a continuous cycle of skills development where you're identifying your areas of strength and areas of improvement to perform successfully at work. So in essence, the more skills you acquire, the more emphasis needed on putting them to work, because the more you put those skills to work, the better you become at using them on the job. And this leads us to a groundbreaking truth that organizations are constantly changing and evolving the way that they do business, and they require good business analysis in order to meet these ongoing demands. So with the skills that you have that you might have acquired 2 to 3 years ago, they're already considered dated because of the fast pace of change that's existing in our world today. And this is evidently impacting how organizations are having to work. And in light of this, it really becomes critical for BA professionals to maintain and develop and maintain a mindset of consistently developing that well-rounded skill set that is very much in demand by organizations, so that at the end of the day, there's an achievement of successful outcomes. So in terms of what we delivered, so you're seeing a side-by-side comparison of our version 3 model, which was our older model as of today, and that we've now moved into our new model, which is version 4. So not going to rehash some of the points that were mentioned throughout discussion already, this presentation. But I'll zone into a couple of things. So in version 3, we had all these tables. These tables were all those layers of assessment that were often seen cumbersome. And so you can see on the version 4 side, we've actually reduced that. So in light of the 30 assessment points, we've embedded a lot of information in the model so that it was much easier and that it had a practical focus that was more simplified. In the version 3, I wanted to point out the BA careers and roles. That's a major change that we've made. We did not put that in version 4, and it was in version 3. Essentially, we felt there was a best place for that, and really what the BA careers was, that whole section, I believe it's chapter 2 in the model, was all about specific roles called specialists, generalists, and hybrids. So for generalists, you would be a type of role would be a business relationship manager. For specialists, it would be an agile BA or an IT BA as an example. And for hybrid, it would be a project manager, business analysis, or a business analyst, QA, quality assurance analyst. Those were the kinds of roles that were in there. And so we felt with trying to put all that information in there, we were trying to do a lot, and that often became an overload. And so we've now simplified this now down to the tasks themselves that you're seeing on the right-hand side. So what I want to do for you today is a demo. So we're going to show you a demo of the competency model in the online version that we delivered. And so just a couple of things before I go there is that we have been seeing an increased use of internet and internet supported devices where people are accessing now information online rather than in print form. So these forms of accessing information online on your smartphones and your tablets. So we felt that in light of where we are going today in society and continue to go, that we needed to deliver this in an online format that supports accessing this information in those types of devices. We've actually taken this step and approach with our certification guide that launched in 2016. And so our competency model has actually taken this form, and this form is through our responsive online help, which really what it does is with responsive help is that the content itself will be laid out and resized and fitted to the screen that you're using. So if you're using a small screen, the content will size to the width and the length of that screen. And if you're using a desktop or a laptop or a tablet, it will do the same thing. So I'm just going to reduce the size of my presentation. And I'm going to pull up for you the competency model, the online responsive help. So essentially, when you log in through the IIBA.org site, you'll enter your credentials. You'll be able to find the business analysis competency model under either the career section, or if you're, depending on how you're logging in, there's a menu called members benefits, and then you would go down through that drop down and select business analysis competency model. It would essentially launch this page on screen here, which is really the guide itself. And what I want to demonstrate here for you, you're seeing my screen in the desktop mode. So essentially, this is the way your screen would look. So I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to show you just how the responsive help resizes the content and adjusts to your view of the screen that you're using. And then I'm going to talk about how a practitioner would actually utilize the model. So I showed you a desktop version, but say your screen, you're using a cell phone. So essentially what I'm doing here is resizing it so it gives you a sense of what this looks like if you were utilizing accessing this information on your mobile device. So essentially you can see that the content is resized accordingly to fit the size of that screen, and then you're seeing the menu options here at the bottom that are adjustable, and you're able to click on these options accordingly. If you had a tablet, so it's a little bit wider for some people that are utilizing those bigger tablets, then you're seeing again the screen and the contents adjusting to that. So you're not seeing anything squashed. So we basically did that so that it's very easy to use and it was convenient, and it could accommodate how you normally like to access information. So I'm going to expand this back out to a desktop version, a laptop version, and what I'm going to begin to show you here are other options here. So what we have here in this competency model is an index. So when I click on there, basically the index will give you things alphabetical order, various subject matters that are found in the competency model. So when you're clicking on one of these, essentially it will pull up all the references. So example, acceptance and evaluation criteria, all those references and all the pages will be shown for you to click on immediately in one screen, and you can scroll through to click on where you want to actually look up that information. We also have a glossary of terms that you can refer to, and if you wanted to print, we had a print option here, although not too many people want to print, but to keep in mind, when you do click on that function, it's really to print the page that's on the screen before you. So it's not going to print the entire model when you click that icon. It's just going to be as you bring up the specific page. And then you have most importantly, your table of contents here. And so you're able to have a table of contents that facilitates hiding and dropping down information that you want to see at a time. I also wanted to point out here that we've included an interactive image. So under what is a competency model, I've just clicked that interactive image here. And the way we've made it interactive is that as you click on each panel of the circle, you're getting a definition of each of the knowledge areas. So you're just watching me right now, I'm clicking and you're seeing a definition of these knowledge areas. We've done the same approach for underlying competencies, and we've also come up with that definition for all the techniques as well. And so if you want to hit back, there's actually a previous button. It will take you back to where you were before. So now what I want to do is show you an example of how a practitioner, BA practitioner, would utilize this. So say, for example, I am a CBAP, or I'm sort of past the midpoint of my career, and I want to get a sense of a strategy analysis. So I want to sort of get a sense of how I'm performing, how I stack up as a CBAP, as an expert in terms of performing strategy analysis, and also get a sense of what's the performance indicators to go to the next level, which would be the strategist. So I'm just going to click on that. You can see that when I click on strategy analysis, I'm getting all the tasks, the BA tasks that are associated to this. This is which is basically your BA performance, the tasks that you'll be performing. So let's say I wanted to look at analyze current state. So I'll click on analyze current state, and essentially it gives me the definition for that, and then it's giving me performance description. So you have, remember, we talked about a way of measuring how well you're performing the task, also levels 1 to 5, and if you wanted to remember what these definitions were, we have a legend here on each one of the task pages, and if I click that, you're able to see definitions of what all the levels mean, and when you're done with that, you just click outside the page. Essentially right here, say you've identified you're an expert, you're a CBAP, and so the CBAP here gives you indicators, performance indicators, descriptions of how a CBAP is performing doing the analyze current state. And so I would use this to sort of measure myself in terms of what I should be doing and what others should have observed me doing, and I would utilize this to sort of benchmark myself as to what's now the next level and what's needed as far as being a strategist now. I'm ready to take my career and lift it off and take it to new levels. So if I click on strategist, I can do a side-by-side comparison, and I can see what I need to sort of work on in terms of the performance descriptions that I need to be sort of fulfilling as far as what people will see of me or of myself. And then we have the common techniques. So then we have the various techniques that can be applied to performing this task. So we've taken the same approach. So you have the various hide drop downs that are hiding information, and as you click, you're getting a definition of how these common techniques are applied specifically to this task, analyze current state. And so you're able to hide and view any information that you want on screen. And if you wanted to see everything on one shot, we've actually have tables. So say for all the proficiency levels, all the descriptions for each at the various levels, I want to see it all in one table rather than doing this isolation. You have a table here that drops down, and you are able to see the same information all in one setting. And we've done the same thing for the common techniques table as well, if you want to see everything at once. So we've accommodated so it's very flexible in terms of how you will come back to this tool to utilize the information accordingly to help you build out your career. So I'm just going to go back to the presentation. So it's now coming down to what's next. So now we've actually officially gone live with our competency model, and this is a responsive online version I just showed you, and it's accessible right now to members who are signed up with IIBA to go and utilize this model today. And as part of our plan, we also intend to roll out a PDF for download because we recognize some people still want to have a PDF. So what we've done is that we're going to roll that out. And then following that, we're also going to do a print copy. So we've never had a print copy for sale, and we're going to offer that for sale for those who really want to have a book on hand that they can carry around and put in their library. So you'll have that as a library reference. And then we also want to approach the continuous updates of our information products. So by obtaining ways, having mechanisms to collect feedback from you, the community, so that you're able to provide us with valuable information and insights by utilizing the product so that we can take that information, analyze and assess it, and that information will help shape and improve our information products, as well as develop new information products that are valuable to you as BA practitioners in order to provide the value that organizations are asking you to bring. We've also, along with that, have identified a set of information products that we see as valuable in delivering. And so one of those is the abbreviated version of the model. It's just a summarized version of the competency model that you're seeing, and it's going to be offered as a free information product to the public. So whether you're a member or not, you can actually benefit by getting a taste of what the model is. And so this is just really a way to give you, it's a teaser, it's a taste of it, and hopefully will entice you to want to actually become a member if you haven't been already, and actually also use the online comprehensive model. Another thing is the BA self-assessment. So this first delivery of it will be a paper copy, which will evolve to an online version or an online app of this, which essentially will be a tool that you can utilize with the model to rate yourself, and it takes you down a list of questions to rate yourself against the 30 performance assessment points, which are those BA tasks, in order to identify where you stack up and what you need to do to develop your career plan to push you in that direction you want to go. And then we've also identified the need to do a how-to guide for leaders. So basically, how do leaders in an organization and HR professionals in an organization utilize the competency model for hiring talent, developing talent, to provide that continuous value to meet the needs of the organization. And then lastly, we have our career path model. So I mentioned as what we delivered as far as those side-by-side features, what we had in version 3, we had a BA careers and role section. That's chapter 2. You will not find that in version 4, as I mentioned. Essentially, the reason for that is that we felt that it's going to be extremely beneficial to the community to have this as its own separate information product. And this is what we're calling the career path model, which will have the roles, your specialists, your generalists, and your hybrid roles, and it will be integrated with the competency model. So it will be a reflection of the BABA guide standards as well as our new certification levels framework. So all of that is on our books as far as what we want to deliver to you so that you have the resources and tools to be successful on the job. So the competency model is out, and you can begin today to utilize the model as part of your career development plan. And so we encourage you to go today and begin to utilize the model, begin to take it and to assess and think about how you want to use it if you're a BA leader, and how you want to use it amongst your team. And we hope that this information will be helpful to you as far as thinking about your career. Because what we've been hearing, and I believe organizations have been saying all along, is that you really own your career and you want to take charge. And nobody knows better than you about where you want your career to go. And you can't rely on anybody to help you necessarily go where you want to go. People can provide guidance in some way or some format, but ultimately you are the driver of your own career. You are in the driver's seat. And so we've equipped you with this resource, this very powerful resource to help you on your journey. And so with that being said, I'm going to hand it back to Marlena so that we will begin our Q&A session.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anthony. We do have some questions. The first one is, why did it take such a long time to release version 4 of the competency model?
So that's a great question. Essentially, we headed down the path of utilizing a standards development process. So in adopting some of that process, it encompassed a lot of activities that involved a lot of people in terms of how we assess the current model, all the way to getting our external consultant involved in helping us in the right direction of writing a competency model that lines up with industry practices. With all those activities, which also included running pilots with volunteers and other an independent practitioner review, it sort of took its time to get all that feedback to really incorporate that into the model that we've released today.
Perfect. Our next question is, given how the world is changing so fast, when do you plan to make the next updates to the competency model?
Well, thank you for that question. So in light of what I just said, we recognize that not every information product has to utilize or adopt the standards development process, which has taken much time in terms of getting this out there, but we also wanted to take the time, and it was needful to make sure that what we're delivering to you, the BA community, was the right thing, and that you would come away with this as a valuable information product. So what we're going to be doing now going forward is the feedback that you'll be giving us through that online mechanism. We're going to utilize that to address necessary updates that we need to make. So we'll have cycles where we'll make changes that may not be so major, or from changes that will be major, which could be, for example, digital business analysis, which is now an up and rising thing now, and say that that no longer becomes relevant in the next 5-10 years, and another thing comes out that's really important to business analysis. We want to make sure that, those perspectives are being reflected into our model. So that online feedback is going to drive updating the model more frequently, and having it in the responsive help version that I demoed to you enables us to make these updates much quicker than we've had in the past.
Great. Next question is there any alignment to other competency models?
Absolutely. So what we did in the assessment of this model is that we looked at our DRIFAS model, which was a model that was used in the healthcare profession and other related professions, as well as a model called SOPHIA, which is the software skills framework for the information age. Essentially, that had that was the model really geared towards information technology. Those were some of the models that we looked at to make sure that what we were doing as far as delivering this model for BA practitioners wasn't something outside of the box, so that when people picked it up, they wouldn't say, well, this doesn't look in comparison to what competency model should be, just in general. So we did look at that, and we wanted to make sure at the end of the day, and that's where we had skills directors role, has really helped us to make sure that it looked and shaped up to be that as far as what industry has out there.
Great. Next question is, what are the biggest benefits of using the model as a practitioner?
So essentially, the biggest benefits are basically the ability to map your current skills and experience. And by doing that, you're able to identify specific career goals, and you're able to then take those goals to develop a professional career development plan that's going to take you on that journey. And essentially, the competency model is going to be that tool and that resource that will help you make those steps to get there.
Okay. The next question is, how can we position the competency model as a value-added tool for BA departments and teams?
So essentially, you want to position that as part of ongoing career development. In your organization, there is an emphasis for individuals to do career development plans. So that might be at the beginning of the year, it might be midway through, however often the organization is specifying that, or they leave it to the onus is on the individuals, but that's the message that organizations want. They want individuals to continue to develop. So you position that as a resource tool to help your team members really self-assess themselves in terms of the skills that they need to bring to the job to meet the organization's needs, and identifying that in their career development plan as what areas that they need. And that may come out to be specific training that they've identified based on the BA task that they want to really improve performing on. It may be some mentoring on the job. It could involve a variety of things, but essentially that's how you want to position it. As well, there's another thing as well. Some organizations, they have feedback, means of collecting feedback for the BA practitioner from stakeholders. So if they did a project or a process improvement initiative or whatever initiative they were involved in, BA leaders can't be in the room and everywhere where their team members are to actually get a sense of what they've done for the whole year. And so they have ways to collect feedback that will feed into year-end performance or semi-annual performance reviews. You can utilize the competency model to align that information, the proficiency descriptions, into those feedback forms or those means of collecting feedback from stakeholders. So it helps the BA practitioner and yourself as a BA leader to see, measure performance and determine what's the next steps to evolve, continue to build on those skill sets in order to get you where you are and where the team needs to be in terms of delivering value to the organization now and in the future.
Great. What are the timelines to release the other information products from the competency model?
So I'm just going to go back one slide so I can talk to that.
Okay.
So essentially the PDF for download, we're looking about a month from now to release that to the community, so about the June timeline. We're looking about the same timeline for the print copy, so about a month and a half from now. And that also will follow the same timeline for the mechanism to collect online feedback in real time from our community, which is you, the community, will have a means of submitting your feedback to us that we can actually assess and use to improve our information products for you. For the abbreviated model, we're looking about a month and a half from now for delivery. For the BA self-assessment, we're looking at like a July, August timeframe, so about a couple months from now. And we're also looking at the Leader's Guide as far as timelines, similar timelines, about a couple months from now. And your career path model, we're looking at conceptualizing this as an information product within 3 to 4 months from now, where there'll be a delivery sometime early in 2018.
Perfect. That's a lot to deliver. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What would you say are the 3 most important things you should take away from the model?
So number 1, you should come away from the model having the means to develop, continuously develop the skill sets that are in demand by organizations. And number 2, you'll come away having a sense of having a tool to help you do a career health check. So just like you go to the doctor and you get an examination, whether it's annual or semi-annual, however you personally approach your own personal health, you should approach your career in the same way. So come away with a tool that will help you do a career check that helps you determine what's the current state of my career, the current health status of my career, and what do I need to do to get my career on track and in the direction I want it. And then come away with this resource as helping you to own your success, because the steps that you take today will be the driving force behind your success tomorrow. And that's essentially the three things that you should come away with.
Great. I have a question regarding the self-assessment. Is there already an online version of the self-assessment?
So we originally had that some years ago. We had an online self-assessment. Due to some factors and circumstances, this was discontinued in 2014. There still remains to be a PDF version of this, and that's something that's available. If you're a corporate member, the PDF would be available, and for non-members, I believe that the PDF is also available for purchase for those that wanted to use that BA self-assessment. But we do intend to update that, because the one that's out there right now is based on BABAC version 2, which is currently outdated.
Okay, I have a question regarding I guess it's the competency model version 3.0, if this is 4.0. Is that still available, or will you be retiring that version?
So we do plan to retire version 3.0, but it won't be immediately. So you'll notice that when you go to the site, the IIBA.org site, that you will see that version 3 is still there, and you will notice that we do have the messaging that it will retire soon. We haven't determined that quite yet, but you can utilize these both versions in parallel. But we do recommend that you use the online version 4.0.
Great. Those are actually all the questions, unless I give a couple more minutes for people to pose questions. But I do have one comment. It says, "Looks great and keep up the good work. Thank you." So that's from one of our attendees. We are a little early in wrapping up, but I don't see that there's any more questions. I want to thank you for your time, Anthony, and providing us more information regarding the new competency model and the value that it gives to our BA professionals. If you are on the call and you are not a member and would like to become a member, please visit our website at IIBA.org. This is just one of the great value items that you get with an IIBA membership, and there's a lot more good stuff to come, as you heard from Anthony. So thank you again, Anthony. Thank you. With that, I will end the webinar. Thank you everyone for attending. This webinar will be posted on the website within 5 business days, both the recording of the webinar and the presentation. So have a look for it. It is under Learning and Development Webinars and under our archived webinars. And with that, I wish you all a pleasant evening, morning, or afternoon. Have a good one.